Welcome to the Canadian Dietitian School. I am your fairy instructor, Tesh Varagas. I create content for dietetic interns, new dietitians, and dietitians looking to learn new skills. If you're watching this video, you may be getting to write the Canadian Dietetic Registration Examination, commonly just called the CDRE. I will share some tips and ideas to help you prepare for this exam. Please note that the content of this video is based upon my own dietetic practice. I cannot guarantee that this is without errors or that it will be accurate or useful. The content of this video has not been approved, reviewed, or confirmed to be representative of the CDRE by the Alliance of Canadian Dietetic Regulatory Bodies. You, the viewer, are responsible for choosing to listen or act upon any of the information presented in this video. Okay, let's get into it. Firstly, you need to understand what the exam is going to test. I don't just mean carefully reading every question, though that is important too. I mean that you should understand what the exam is and is not going to ask of you. Let's go over that. The exam is based on the Integrated Competencies for Dietetic Education and Practice, or ICDEP. These competencies were published by the Partnership for Dietetic Education and Practice, with version 3 being published in 2020. They are available online. As you know, these are the competencies that you've been working on and evaluated on during your dietetic internship. There are 7 domains of practice competency: food and nutrition expertise, professionalism and ethics, communication and collaboration, management and leadership, nutrition care, population health promotion, and food provision. Within each domain, there are specific practice competencies and performance indicators. You will have learned about and demonstrated almost all of these indicators by the time you are ready to write the CDRE. The Partnership for Dietetic Education and Practice expects you to learn, demonstrate, and be evaluated upon the Miller's Pyramid. Well, what is the Miller's Pyramid? In 1990, Dr. George Miller published his pyramid model for assessing clinical skills of physicians. The pyramid starts with the basic knowledge needed for clinical work. Building on that knowledge, a clinician will learn how to do a task. Once they know how, they will be able to show how and finally do the task themselves. This has been adapted to dietetic practice. Why am I telling you this in a video about the CDRE? Because the CDRE is only going to test you on the know and know-how level. The ICDEP document lists which levels of the Miller's Pyramid is tested academically, during internship, and on the CDRE. You will not be asked to show how or do during the exam. Let's consider an example. Within the nutrition care domain, one of the practice competencies is plan nutrition interventions. Within this practice competency, there are performance indicators for determining nutrition requirements and determining enteral nutrition regimens. You will have learned about nutrition requirements and enteral nutrition regimens in school. As an intern, you start at the know level of the pyramid. You know what nutrition requirements are and what enteral nutrition is. You spend time observing your preceptor and learning from them so that you know how to determine both requirements and enteral regimens. You see what types of calculations are being made, how your preceptor determines which formula to use, etc., but you aren't yet doing those things. You would be able to describe how to do it without taking the action of actually doing it. During the part of your placement where you begin to do these things under the supervision of your preceptor, you are showing how. And if you become independent with a skill, you are doing. During the CDRE, you will be tested on the concepts, base knowledge, and the logical and critical ways of thinking about the competencies, but you won't be performing your skills. Understanding this should help you prepare, as you won't be asked to do things, but may be asked how you would do them. My second tip is to try and think like the dietitians who write the exam. If you are going to test on knowing and knowing how for each practice competency, how would you do it? Let's try looking at a question together and see how we might handle it. When we see the question, it is important to stay calm and interpret what the question is really asking. It may appear that this is a clinical question about neonatal infants, which could be intimidating, especially if you didn't have a NICU placement during your internship. When we read the question, we can see it's not really asking us about neonatal nutrition at all. Let's read through it. You see an infant in the NICU and write the following nutrition diagnosis. Inadequate energy intake related to increased nutrition needs secondary to prematurity as evidenced by lack of weight gain/growth. Your nutrition intervention is to provide higher calorie infant formula. What will be the variable you are most interested in looking at during the nutrition follow-up? A. Estimated energy requirements. B. Amount of formula consumed. C. Weight gain/growth. Or D. Infant feeding skills. This question is asking us to determine what is important for a nutrition follow-up. Follow-up is part of monitoring and evaluation, which is part of the nutrition care process. Knowing this puts this question within the nutrition care domain of the ICDEP. The transferable skill is related to monitoring and evaluation, which is practice competency number 5.05, monitor nutrition interventions and evaluate achievement of nutrition goals. Monitoring and evaluation are transferable skills that will apply whether we've worked with the neonatal population or not. We know that the answer is within the question because we have a nutrition diagnosis. If we use our knowledge about the electronic nutrition care process terminology, or ENCPT, we know that our nutrition intervention should target the etiology of the problem. And once that is implemented, the signs and symptoms should improve. Does the nutrition intervention target the cause of the problem? Yes. Giving higher calories when the problem is increased calorie needs makes sense. On follow-up, the signs and symptoms should get better. The signs and symptoms are written as a lack of weight gain/growth. This means that when we follow up, we should see improvements in weight gain and growth. Therefore, the answer to this question is C. We didn't need any knowledge of neonatal nutrition to answer this question, just knowledge about the ENCPT. While doing practice questions and during the exam, make sure to consider what the question is really asking. I've seen recommendations for doing as many practice questions as possible, but I couldn't find a lot of practice questions available. I challenge you to try and create your own questions. Write some examples with multiple choice answers, just like the monitoring and evaluation question we just discussed. If you can think of ways to frame a question and can think of both the correct answer and incorrect answers, you have a very clear understanding of the concept. Let's try creating a new question together. Start by picking a domain and practice competency from the ICDEP. Let's go with the domain of food provision and practice competency number 7.03, manage food provision. One of the performance indicators in this competency is to develop and standardize recipes, so we'll focus on that. You've been asked to standardize a recipe. Well, what type of recipe? Let's go with an entree. Pasta. I love pasta. You've been asked to standardize a recipe for a pasta dish. Now, where would this be occurring? Let's go with long-term care. You've been asked to standardize a recipe for a pasta dish at a long-term care facility. Now, why do recipes need to be standardized? Partly because consistent preparation every time it is offered is important. Partly because they're often being made for more people than you would normally cook for at home. Let's make this long-term care facility have lots of people. Let's make it 120 residents. So you have been asked to standardize a recipe for a pasta dish at a long-term care facility that has 120 residents. What steps might you take in recipe standardization? We have our question. Now we need to consider our multiple choice answers. We have to remember that the exam is going to test that we know how to do this. We don't have to actually standardize the recipe, but describe how it would be done. In that case, let's list the steps to standardizing a recipe. What things need to be done? We already know the recipe is for pasta, and we'll have to cook for 120 people. So we're going to need to adjust the weight and volume measures of the recipe to accommodate 120 people. But before we do that, we need to know how much one person will get. What is the standard portion? We can't make 120 portions of this pasta if we don't even know what one portion looks like. What else did we need to do to ensure this recipe is standardized for the facility? We want to make sure that it is made the same way every time, no matter who is working in the kitchen. In that case, the steps for following the recipe should be very clearly written. Before we add this to the menu and begin serving it in our facility, we should test it to make sure that it looks good, tastes good, and has good texture. Sometimes when you make a recipe much bigger for like 120 people, it doesn't turn out the same as when you make it for 4 or 6 or 8 people. Once it has been tested, it can be added to the facility catalog or menu. Now that we have our steps for recipe standardization, we can make multiple choice answers. Let's write the order that we came up with our answers in first, even though we determined that determining the portion size for each resident needs to occur first. This will make for a good distracting answer. Next, we can write out the correct answer. For options C and D, we can shuffle the order of the steps around so that these answers remain incorrect. Now we have our full multiple choice question on managing food provision. Let's read the whole thing through together. You've been asked to standardize a recipe for a pasta dish at a long-term care facility that has 120 residents. What steps might you take in recipe standardization? A. Adjust the weight and volume measures to accommodate the quantity needed. List the steps for preparing the recipe. Test the recipe and make adjustments. Choose the portion size that will be served to each resident. And add the recipe to the facility catalog. B. Choose the portion size that will be served to each resident. Adjust the weight and the volume measures to accommodate the quantity needed. List the steps for preparing the recipe. Test the recipe and make adjustments. Add the recipe to the facility catalog. C. Test the recipe and make adjustments. Add the recipe to the facility catalog. List the steps for preparing the recipe. Choose the portion size that will be served to each resident. Adjust the weight and volume measures to accommodate the quantity needed. D. List the steps for preparing the recipe. Test the recipe and make adjustments. Choose the portion size that will be served to each resident. Adjust the weight and volume measures to accommodate the quantity needed. Add the recipe to the facility catalog. When we read this question as someone taking the exam, we realize that we don't need a lot of knowledge on recipe standardization because all the steps are already listed for us. What this question is actually testing is our reading ability and our critical thinking ability. We need to think about this logically to determine the order of steps that makes the most sense. Try making your own questions and asking a friend to do the same. If you each come up with one question per competency domain and then trade your questions to try testing your knowledge, you will have just done 14 practice questions. I have developed some practice questions that are available for purchase and download on my Patreon at Canadian Dietitian School, link in the description. The question document has a total of 12 questions, 2 of which are the ones I shared in this video, so an additional 10 questions from what I've shared today. Please encourage your friends and colleagues to support the author, me, and don't share this document with everyone you know. Supporting the creator is the ethical decision, and please remember that we dietitians do follow a code of ethics. My final recommendation is to have confidence in yourself. You've made it through your degree program and your internship, both of which are no easy feat. Trust yourself that you can do this. Best of luck, and I hope to see you again on my channel soon.